Namaskaram to everyone. Verses 29 to 32 is giving us the various aspects of the test of self-development. Now, what you need to take a note of, the 29th verse gives us the test of self-development with reference to the emotional level. So with reference to the mind, how his devotional feelings towards the world, verse 29 talks of it. Verse 30 talks of the test of self-development with reference to his intellectual awareness. That's from the perspective of the intellect. Verse 31 talks of his self-development with reference to his actions. And verse 32 talks about the test of self-development with reference to the fluctuations of the world. So 4 means where you can actually test your own spiritual development. One is with reference to emotions, 29. The 30 is with reference to the intellectual awareness. Verse 31 with reference to actions. Verse 32 is with reference to the fluctuations of the world. Now, the last we were dealing with the 30th verse. In fact, one of the most fascinating verses, one of the most fascinating qualities. We had an initial discussion. In fact, one of the most outstanding qualities of a person, the spiritual quality which starts unfolding, which starts expressing as you spiritually evolve, is the quality of forgiveness. Now, how did we relate that to the context of the verse? The verse stated, he who sees the self everywhere and sees everything in me, I am not lost to him, nor is he lost to me. So when he talks about the capacity, as I said, the intellectual awareness to be able to see the self everywhere, the capacity to see the all-pervasive truth or reality, that is a statement of fact. That's a state a man of realization attains. Now, that's from an absolute point of view. It really doesn't help us. And then we said, how do we relate to the same quality of forgiveness from a relative standpoint? Now, all of us are somewhere between 0 and 100. We're not at ground zero, nor are we at an elevated state of spiritual perfection. So there are enough avenues, enough opportunities where you can try to extend this area of identification. So there are moments, there are pockets where you can't identify. There are instances where you don't identify. So start with areas where you can't identify, so that your growth starts happening in those realms where you're not able to identify with situations, with people, with whoever that be. We brought in the concept of applying forgiveness from 2 standpoints. First, we said that you must, when you look at nature, when you look at people, you should understand that every individual, every being out there is helplessly expressing its own innate nature, innate vasanas. In other sense, it is innately expressing its own gunas. Some people have a sattvic guna of a predominant guna. Some people have a predominant rajasic guna, and some people have a predominance of tamoguna. Every human being is a combination of sattva, rajas, and tamas. The highest, the mediocre, and the lowest class of mental natures. Gunas are nothing but mental temperaments. And every one of us are a combination of all these three. And the one which is more pronounced becomes your predominant nature. That goes about defining your personality. So if tamas is predominant in me, more pronounced in me, I would be called as a tamasic person because it overwhelms and overrules rajas and sattva. Now, there could be traces of sattva in me, but I would be called as a tamasic person. In the same way, when the rajas predominates over sattva and tamas, I would be called a rajasic person. And when sattva predominates over rajas and tamas, I am a sattvic person. Now, this is important. So when I look at you, when I look at each of you, I must understand you as helplessly expressing your own vasanas, expressing your own gunas. And this seems to be coming to us with great clarity when we look at the animal kingdom. When you look at the animal kingdom, don't you see the distinct nature and characteristics of each species? If you take example for zebras, all zebras have a particular nature, and what you call they have is known as a collective vasanas. It's very interesting. All the species in the animal kingdom, with reference to that particular species, all have got what is known as a collective vasanas. All zebras behave the same way. All ostrich behave the same way. All hyenas behave the same way. All snow leopards behave the same way. Every animal has got a unique nature, and in that species, all of them have got what is known as a collective nature. If you understand one zebra, you will understand all zebras. You'll have no problem. But that's not the case with reference to the human beings. It's not that human beings also have got what we call as the nature, vasanas, gunas, but an individual has got, a human being has got an individualistic nature, a unique nature, a unique vasana. So that we will have difficulty in identifying the gunas because of the uniqueness each one is made up of. No two human beings are the same because of the two natures differ. But if you have to relate to them, if you have to accept them, if you want to find a harmony in your relationship with them, it is imperative that you must make this fundamental assessment as to what is their nature. And if you don't do that, if you flout this principle of assessing their guna, you will impose your expectations on them and you'll sit and grumble and complain of your challenges, of your problems, of your hiccups you're facing in that relationship. As simple as that. If you're having a hiccup in a relationship, it's because of your wrong expectation. And why does that come? Is because you have not made that assessment of their individualistic, unique nature. And that's what he is born with. That's what he is. You can't sit and complain. So if you understand this to the core, you'll stop censuring their behavior. You will never censure their behavior. Since when have I become the custodian of your conscience? Huh? Venkatramanji, since when did I become the custodian of your conscience? Eh? Is it true to be in that attitude? Is it right to have such an approach?
Namaskar, Guruji. Not because, whatever we are learning now, from that perspective, I think, we should not start looking at it from that viewpoint. But that is more in terms of how we have to, but we, at least let me say you, we just behave the other way. more often than not. So I think
More
that is a
often.
control which we need to have.
We need to really ingrain these principles so that that becomes our natural
Exactly.
measuring tool, that becomes the modus operandi, how we deal with life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, have we not seen people who have married for 30, 40, 50 years and yet they sit and grumble and complain every day? Every day of their life, they have been grumbling for the past 40 years. Man, you have known and married each other for 40 years, for God's sake, and yet you are complaining. Why are you
Yeah.
censuring their actions? Why are you sitting in judgment of what they're doing is right or wrong?
Yeah.
Does this not necessitate a paradigm shift in our thinking to deal with our day-to-day moments of life? How can I make that mistake every day after day, sir?
Exactly. Yep.
So
Right.
that, as you know, I'm sure you've heard of this beautiful phrase, a wise man is one who learns from others' mistakes. A fool from his own. 40 years of living together, you have not learned. What do we call them, sir?
Yeah.
Repeated mistakes again
Yeah.
and again, day in and day after. You got to seriously inject this radar. You got to have this perception, the ability to just see them what they are, and they are just exhibiting it helplessly, isn't it, sir?
Agreed. Agreed.
Imagine you take this perception into your organization and you may not deal with every employee in your organization, but you are dealing with your core team, you're dealing with your managers, you're dealing with your directors, you're dealing with your the decision makers of each department, and they come and report to you. Is it not necessary for you to have that acute assessment, that acumen, to be able to pick up that extraordinary quality of what they are, or their extreme exact weaknesses, what they have, so that you know exactly how to deal with?
Yep. Exactly.
If I
Right.
project A on B and a project B on C or C on A, I'm into trouble,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Agreed. Agreed.
So it is very, very paramount that we understand everyone as their gunas functioning. So the
Probably we have to
first and
start practice. We have to start practicing at home first. Between yeah. No, I mean I seriously feel then it will automatically start getting amplified in the outside world as we deal with people. You're right, but yeah, that is the reality. Yes, we'll have to work on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. What matters most is our own family. Tomorrow your employee goes, your manager goes, you can appoint another one, but you can't afford to do that with your own family, can you? You can't afford to snap that relationship. And I must say, today, every relationship is like a very thin thread. The only difference between our culture and Western culture is they divorce. Here, we just put up with things. It's not that our lives are any more harmonious or peaceful. It's just culturally we are bound. That's about all. In the Western culture, if things don't go along for a little while, they say, go to hell with you. You live your life, I live my life. In fact, they have come up with ingenious ways and means. They don't even get married. They don't need to move on because there's no commitment. It's a commitment-free commitment. So I don't tie a knot. There is no bond. There is no binding. There is no legal implication. We have this live-in concepts, which is it has actually come into our culture as well. Sadly
Yeah.
so. I'm not saying any right or wrong, but I'm only trying to tell the fact of life. As you say, we need to have this simple understanding of who my wife is, who my husband is, what kind of government I'm living in, what's the kind of weather, what's the kind of politics, what are the policies. Each and everything, you must have a clear assessment. And once you have that, you'll be able to gracefully accept what they are. So first level, as we said, of forgiveness, the concept is to understand each one as vasanas functioning. And remember, as I've said, to understand all is to forgive all. To understand all is to forgive all. Whom am I to forgive you? Since when have I started deciding what is right or wrong for you? Let you decide. You should be the custodian of your conscience, not me. And let me decide what is right for me, not you sit and decide there what is right for me or not. Isn't it? So that's the first interpretation to forgiveness. We're trying to understand the quality. Remember, I've said kshami. Kshami is that quality which appears in the 12th chapter of the Gita, where he talks about 35 qualities of a devotee of God, where he mentions them. All right. And then the second perception you must have is you grow in maturity to such a high level. Your spiritual evolution is so grand. The stance you take is so grand that you are looking down from your standpoint. Others appear as spiritual children. Just like an adult looks at a child and forgives the childishness in another person. Your spiritual maturity gives you that advantage of growth and maturity, that you are able to forgive them from your superior standpoint without having a superiority complex. Please mind that. You don't take a superiority complex, but you see them inferior because of your superior stance. So you're able to actually forgive them. And when are you expected to forgive? When is it that you're expected to forgive another person? You're expected. Bhartima, when are you expected to forgive? Please forgive me first. If you didn't expect me to ask you, you must forgive me first.
No, you saw my expression. I felt, Guruji, that I was thinking and contemplating.
So there's some connector.
So I think when we feel the other person, when we feel the other person has said or done something which is hurting us, when we feel that pain, that is the time that we need to understand and forgive them. Actually, forgiveness should be daily part of daily life, but that is when you are feeling hurtful and you are feeling that pain, is that the time that you need to forgive.
But if you're already feeling the hurt or pain, then you're already affected, isn't it?
So
you don't allow it to hurt you. You don't allow it to unsettle you. So but yet when others' actions are not as you expected, or when others' actions are hurtful, are vindictive, are destructive towards you, as we learned, when somebody is unkind to you, how kind can your acts be? So there are enough opportunities in our life to actually test us. What is our level of maturity? What is our level of forgiveness? Isn't it?
We get that opportunity every day, I think.
Many a time in a day, isn't it?
Yes.
So the question is whether you want to convert that opportunity into a stepping stone, or whether you want to end up creating it as an obstacle or as a roadblock and create a challenge for you, isn't it?
Yes. Like with my personal experience in this last 1 year, especially in this pandemic, I have realized that whenever I feel with a conversation or my interaction with any person, when I feel that I am getting reactive, my emotions are coming out like in a negative way. I feel like saying something back, or that means that times I start feeling that there is something in me that I need to change, because it is not the fault of the other person. There is something in me which is not right. That's why I am reacting to that situation. If I was okay and I was calm, then how does it matter? Like little clouds, they go in the sky, so people will say things and do things according to their whatever they are feeling. But if it is affecting me, that means something in me needs to change. Yes.
Very, very true. If we have that approach to life, end of the day, every situation transforms us. Every experience transforms us, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So just reminding ourselves again of that famous quote by Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, "Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet releases as the foot crushes it." You must have such a fragrance in your attitude to life, to others, that when their actions crush your ego, when their actions hurt your ego, you emanate that fragrance of forgiveness. So Mark Twain says, forgiveness is the fragrance the violet releases as the foot crushes it. Poor little innocent flower is crushed under your feet and it releases that beautiful fragrance. So beautiful, isn't it? Right. So we have converted this verse into applied philosophy. Now, he talks it from a pure philosophy. What we have done is we have translated into applied philosophy and found ways we can apply it. But he doesn't talk from that standpoint. All right. So we'll move on to verse 31. Sarvabhutassthitam yo mam bhajatyekatvamasthitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mayi vartate. Sarvabhutassthitam yo mam bhajatyekatvamasthitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mayi vartate. He who is established in oneness worships me. Bhajati. The word bhajati means worships me. Dwelling in all beings, that yogi abides in me. Whatever be his mode of living, yogi mayi vartate, he abides in me. He is established, asthitaha, he is established in me. So this verse, as I've said, gives the test of self-development with reference to actions. So whatever be his mode of living, one who has established himself in the self, for him, he says, it is immaterial. It really doesn't matter whatever be his mode of living. It really doesn't matter. Whatever they do is acceptable. But not for us, huh? It's only meant for those who have reached that state of perfection. Having reached that state, he says, doesn't matter whatever be the mode of living. Whatever you do is perfect. Isn't a phrase or the word in Tamil which is aduvum nandru? Does it mean that? All that, please correct me. Rajima, is that right? You. I'm asking a Tamilian and she's saying Namaskaram to me. Aduvum nandru. What does it mean? Correct, ah? Said Raman sir. Huh? I can't do lip reading. Unmute yourself, Rajima.
Shiva would be able to explain, Guruji. His Tamil is excellent.
Now, chumma basic word I'm saying. It's not a very philosophical word. Enna sir, Sidramanji.
Adum nandru means that also is good.
That also is good. Whatever you do is good. Whatever you do is acceptable. Aduvum nandru. Isn't it? So that is what it is.
Guruji, another phrase is Ellam paravaillai. Everything is okay.
Everything is accepted.
Anything happens, fine.
No, that is more from a standpoint of you trying to accept anything that happens in life. Adu paravailla. Oh, business is going through bad times. It is God's grace. Adu paravailla, and I'll accept it. This is from our standpoint. But that is Aduvum Nandru, means whatever they do, whatever is done is the tone, is the trend, is perfection. There's a slight difference in the two. If we can identify the subtle difference. Okay.
Nandru means good. Aduvum means that.
Correct. That is good. Whatever they do is good. Very good, sir. Aduvum Nandru.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yes, Hariji.
When you say Aduvum Nandru means that too is good. That means other than that, something else also is good. Aduvum. Adu Nandru ille. Aduvum Nandru. That means that too is good.
Correct. That too is good refers to.
Else also is good.
See, the best way to understand is the verse in the. Okay. Now remember, there are various episodes. I'll take examples of a couple of episodes. That too is good means there is nothing wrong in that. See, in the Mahabharata war, you know, there was this moment where Karna and Arjuna had to face each other in a single combat. They were leaders of their own army. They were prominent leaders. And you know the story, Karna's chariot will get stuck in the battleground. And what Karna does, he seeks permission to repair his chariot wheel. And going by the law of warfare those days, if the opponent is not ready, you will withdraw. So having given the permission, he is attending to his wheel. And what our dear friend Krishna, what did he say? Shoot. He instructed Arjuna to shoot. What? I only told him, you know, we gave him permission, let him repair, then we'll get on to a fight. He said, shoot now. And he simply shot the arrow, and that was the end of Karna. Aduvum Nandru. There's nothing wrong in their action. Here you have violated the law of warfare. Having given a word, you went by it. You adopted unethical ways and means. You have broken the law. You've broken your word. You went against your own word. Aduvum Nandru. For men at that level who have reached perfection, whatever they do is acceptable. So you can't speak dharma to an adharmic fellow, can you? They had to adopt adharmic ways to deal with adharma. So they did many manipulative things and such actions to establish dharma. So what is it that you need to understand the principle? They adopted a certain principle to uphold dharma. So what happens here? Action is justified because the end is upholding dharma. So you have actually taken the law into your hands, and they have done so to uphold dharma. They are not wrong. Please, that's why I said at that level. Therefore, sir, thank you very much. I also was wanting to do a little few mischievous things. This gives me the complete license to do what I want to do. Let us not get into that. Don't take the law into your hands. Don't resort to adharmic ways and means. But once you reach that state, doesn't matter. Whatever be his mode of living, whatever be his conduct, whatever be his action, it is perfect. Aduvum Nandru. Second example, in the Ramayana, we are given of Rama hiding behind a tree and shooting Vali. Again, a very strong comments come, not understanding the intent behind what Rama did against the law of warfare. It's not easy for men of that caliber to, they would give their life on their word. And here they have resorted to such a measure where their action were glaringly imperfect. So it is, let's try to understand the simple concept here. If I look at you or you look at me, when I were to assess your physical health by mere look, is it possible to gauge someone's physical health? It is very misleading, isn't it? I could be seemingly very healthy, but I could be having serious concerns within me, isn't it? So to gauge physical health is not easy. To know your emotion, what is going on within you, to know whether you are a benefactor or a malefactor, is it easy to find out? Just because you're smiling doesn't mean you're a benefactor. Watch out. In fact, I would be very watchful if somebody is over smiling. As Shakespeare says, you may smile and smile and smile and yet be a villain. The famous words of Shakespeare. You may smile and smile and yet be a villain. So it is very difficult to know whether you are a benefactor or a malefactor. It is very difficult to know what is your material wealth. What is your, what do you call that? Oh, Harishji, what is that word? What is that right word? Net worth. Huh? Is that word right word? It is difficult to know what is your net worth. Anybody's net worth. So material is difficult to gauge, physical is difficult, emotions difficult, intellectual difficult. Now, how would you gauge a spiritual man? It's that much more difficult to gauge a spiritual man. And how are you trying to gauge a spiritual man? Through his actions. And you would go fundamentally wrong by gauging a spiritual man by his actions. Do not gauge a man by his action. It's impossible. You've got to gauge. So there is a difference between the character and the conduct. The conduct may not be in line to the character. Conduct is action. He says, whatever be the mode of action, his state of perfection, he is reached perfection. Don't be mistaken by that. Remember the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. You remember the verse? Anybody can remember the verse in Bhagavad Gita which exactly says same thing. Gayatri Ma. Terima என்ன verse? Can't hear you, Ma.
I just moved out of my system for 2 minutes and you caught me.
Oh, did you? Sorry, I didn't see that. I seem to be catching people. You know the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Rajima, pata hai?
Is it Yogaratova, Bhogaratova?
Yes, it is. The verse says, Yogarato va, Bhogarato va, Sangharato va, Sanghavihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chetam, Nandati Nandatyeva. He says it doesn't matter whether you are in the path of yoga, which is seeking union with the self, or bhoga, apparently seemingly indulging in the world. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are, as long as your thoughts are anchored in the self. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam. Again, don't be mistaken by this verse because it's only meant for people who are established in dharma, established in truth. So therefore, what you got to understand is whatever, once you reach that state of conduct, once you reach a state of perfection, whatever be the mode of conduct, even that is acceptable. But he who establishes in that oneness, worships me, What is worshipping? When does anything, what does the word worship indicate? When people say work is worship, what does it mean? What does the word worship mean? Here he says, he who is established in the in oneness, worshipping me, which is abiding in all beings. So what's the word worship connote? Ramji, any idea? The simple English word worship, how could you interpret it?
Namaskar. The technical meaning of worship may be to pray to, or to adore, or to hold someone in high esteem. But I think in this context, it might refer to immerse oneself in. That's what I feel. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but if you immerse yourself in the God, means immerse means not physically, but through your mind and intellect. If you immerse yourself with the God, then you can do these things.
Immersing yourself. In fact, it is more, you can actually qualify that word more. You almost
Completely immerse yourself.
No, I know you speak few words, but because I've compelled you, you've added one more word. No, that means a lot coming from you. So yes. In fact, worshipping is something, it's so much beyond immersing. In fact, it is almost becoming one with something. When you worship something, you almost become one with it. It's almost a part of you. It consumes you. So you become it. Yeah. Therefore, the very next thing he says, because you're worshipping, that yogi dwells in me. You're consumed. You become it. You get enmeshed in it. You get lost in it. So that's the kind. And how do you achieve that? That concept of worshipping something tantamounts to ananya chinta. Ananya chinta means the capacity to maintain that consistency of thought in every thought, word, and deed. That ananya chinta, that capacity, it's a capacity, please. It's a capacity to maintain a certain consistency, a certain awareness. Ananya chinta. Chinta is thinking. Anya chinta means you're thinking of many things. Ananya chinta means no other thinking except that one thinking, except that one thought. That is known as single pointed concentration. When something becomes the only objective, the only purpose, the sole purpose of your life, then you're worshipping something. Just like the child becomes the only point of thought, interest, and attention for the mother. When the child is the infant, the child is born, the child consumes the thought of the mother, so much so the mother becomes a child. Literally, you can say the mother is worshipping the child. Ananya chinta, there's no other thought. Exactly the same way you're able to, if you're able, you become one with the self. Thereafter, he says, whatever be his mode of living is all accepted. Bhartima, what did you type?
I wrote ikigai. It is a Japanese word. And I read a book which, about people in Japan who are living above the age of 100 and are living very happy, content lives. And their, something like this, it resonated with me that, the ikigais, when they are doing one job, they are so much immersed into it, or they are so much engrossed in it, they forget everything, and that becomes they become it, like whether it is creating a painting or cooking or something. So this was one of the concepts that they talk about, that, when you become that thing, when you're doing your entire focus, your entire thing goes into it, that takes you to a stage where you eventually become like healthier, more peaceful.
Yeah, very true. So the test of self-development with reference to your actions, whatever be the action, you're interested only in the attainment of the self. Whether you're fasting or you're feasting, why are you doing? Only interest is to get to the self. There is no other interest. There is no other thought. There is no other purpose, is to get back to the self. That is the process, and that is the end. Okay. 32. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. He who through the likeness of the self, Arjuna, sees equality everywhere, be it in joy or sorrow, he is regarded as the highest. Sayogi paramo mataha. Paramaha mataha. This is my opinion. See, there are sections in the Gita, in the Shastras, he says it is my opinion. There is a difference between an opinion and a fact. However, we should be very much interested in knowing even his opinion. But there is a difference between an opinion and a fact. What is a fact? Fact refers to the Sanatana Dharma, which is the truth which has been handed down from a long period of time. These are truths of life, facts of life. That is different to an opinion. So Lord Krishna says this is considered. He is considered by whom? I consider him as a supreme yogi. Who is considered a supreme yogi? He who through the likeness of the self sees equality everywhere. Firstly, he says, Yaha. Yaha means whoever. It could be any one of us. So it's a universal message applicable to any individual. Sees equality everywhere. Now, the same concept he is repeating. Now, sees equality through the joy and sorrow. He is considered a supreme yogi. Now, how is it possible to see how is it not to be concerned by joy and sorrow? The natural state we all go through is joy or sorrow, both affect us, isn't it? Whether joy, a positive emotion, sorrow, negative emotion. How is it that you should not be affected by it? So you are able to see a sense of oneness in the vicissitudes. He just gave an example. When he says joy and sorrow, it only doesn't mean that. It means any fluctuation of life, any opposite of life that life puts us through, you're able to see that equality. Now, what is that quality which brings about a perception of equality? The question itself is rhyming, huh? So what is that quality which brings about that perception of equality in the various opposites. You all following the question? Vaidyanathanji, you follow the question, sir?
No.
The question, I'm only trying to phrase a question out of the verse. The verse says, this man sees an equality, whether be it in joy or sorrow.
I think in this context, when you perceive and feel for others just as well as for you, I mean, the other person is also equal. You're not seeing yourself different from the person. Like in the previous stanza we said, when we see the self, see where we identified with the self in all, your suffering and the other person's suffering is still the same. You don't differentiate between the two. When one, if he feels for others just as much as he feels for himself, that would be the equality that you're referring to. Whether he's in grief or pleasure. Am I getting that question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So,
you asked what is the equality that you're talking about, right? Am I correct?
how not to be affected or concerned by the opposites, which he talks about, the joy and sorrow.
Not to be concerned. Okay.
Not to be concerned. How not to be concerned by the joy and sorrow. So you are able to maintain a sense of equality. You're able to see that oneness.
Equanimity.
Not equanimity. The verse says an equality, samam.
Oh, you mean equality between the sorrow and happiness? Is that what you're talking?
Yes, you are able to see an equality in the extremities of joy and sorrow. Joy doesn't affect you, nor sorrow affects you. How are you able to maintain that sense of equality?
That when you see that these things are happening to the body and not to the self, you're detached from that. It is happening to the body. You can be perfectly happy even with a fractured leg. You know, it is paining, but you know that it is something that is happening to the body and not to the self. You can be detached from that. It's a suffering. You might even say, oh my God, it's paining. But that need not make you, you don't have to be unhappy about it. I mean, it is not happening to the self. You are detaching from the self, from the body. And therefore, you're perceiving good things happening and the not so good things happening with an equal bias.
So nice if we all had that in us, isn't it?
That's the trouble with Gita. I was just seeing the last chapter, last class.
What is the trouble? Why trouble with the Gita here?
I'm telling you just now, I want to explain to you what my problem was. I was reading the summary of last class. Then I said, oh my God, I cannot say, you said Jesus, when he was being crucified, he said, Father, forgive them for they don't know. I said, I can never do that in my life. Impossible. Then the other thing, you have to love everybody equally. I find my grandson a lot more exciting than I love children. I would enjoy a 3-year-old child who is not my grandchild. But my grandchild is special. Will they both be equal? Not in this lifetime. So everything that I read last week is totally, that's a problem with Gita. And this is the same problem today we are reading now, where you're seeing joy and happiness as equal. Not possible.
Not possible. So I think we can, one Gita will be one verse less. We can rip off that particular page from the book. Rip it off. Make yourself comfortable, no problem. But keep it your own personal copy. Don't give it to anybody else, because half the book is missing. No, it didn't appeal to me. I'm ripping off pages because it does not applicable. Not applicable. You might end up with only the cardboard, No. It's all very much applicable. It's only in degree.
Yes, I agree. It's
only
applicable. It's very true. Whatever is said is true. I'm saying personally, I am far removed from it. That's all. We should strive for it, but it's a long way to go.
No, there is a sadhana. We should look at it as an opportunity to, as we say, test ourselves, as you said, whether I'm able to relate to it or not. It's a test to our development, giving us a clear perception or a direction. Okay. See, if you, Gayatri Ma, if you can just put back the verse for me again. So if you read the translation closely, you'll get the answer. The question is, how do we develop that equality, that quality of equality everywhere, whether be it in joy or sorrow? Now, you read the translation carefully. He says, he who means it could be any one of us. Now, through the likeness of the self, when you are united to the self, means when you have wedded to the self, when you are bonded to the self, from the perception of the self, you will see equality everywhere. So the perception of equality comes because of the union with the self. Then it doesn't matter the joy or sorrow. For such a person, he has reached the highest state. Now, keeping the verse in mind, let's say I light a lamp under the midday sun. I light a lamp, right? Now, whether the lamp is lit or the lamp gets extinguished under the midday sun, does it make a difference? It doesn't make a difference at all, whether the lamp is lit or it gets extinguished, because in the presence of that grand brilliance, the brilliance of the sunlight, what is it whether to have a lamp lit or extinguished? It doesn't matter, isn't it? Similarly, when you have got yourself established and anchored in the self, the petty joys and sorrows, the love and hatred, acceptance, rejectance, profit and loss, even birth and death will go by as if it has no effect on you. You are samam, you are same, because of the quality of the self starts reflecting in you. And what is the quality of the self? The quality of the self is paripurna. Remember the word, the Sanskrit word for paripurna is that wholesomeness, is that fullness. When you have experienced that fullness and oneness, there's nothing that can take away anything from you, nor can anything add. Has that little lamp, the light from the wick, has it added any luster on that bright midday sun? No. What are you talking? Now, little joy comes our way, we are excited. A little sorrow comes our way, we are dejected. Why? Because we have not found the fullness of our own self. We have not experienced that paripurna that comes from within. So all of this makes no difference to a man who has got to that state of fullness. That's the quality that you start exhibiting as you evolve is the known. What is the quality is known as self-sufficiency. The quality of self-sufficiency. And what is the opposite of self-sufficiency? Venkatramanji, if I can ask you, what is that quality of self-sufficiency? Why I'm asking you is others may have heard this before, therefore I just want to give the benefit of doubt so that It makes you think.
No, I'm in fact actually was pondering over this. While I fully understand what you are saying in terms of, our reaction should be much more balanced, both in terms of joy and sorrow. But specifically in the world we are living in, and which is obviously, also transactional in nature, like you make profits or you don't make profits. Okay, I might absorb it, but the investors, the shareholders and all. So I was just trying to see whether then everyone should be, thinking equally alike. Otherwise, then probably you would be perceived as an individual who is actually, not putting efforts, I would say, but not driving results, or generally not bothered or indifferent and things like that. So I was actually more confused around that part of it. As you
Sir, but being equanimous in success or failure doesn't mean you're indifferent to success or failure. There's a world of difference in the two, sir. See, in fact, being equanimous in success and failure is a sattvic quality. Sattva is to remain balanced or equipoised. It's like when your car is going through, it is smooth. You feel the comfort when you're going on an asphalted road. You feel the same comfort even when you're going through a rough terrain, through potholes and ditches and humps. It's not that you also go through up and down. Then what is the quality of that shock absorber? It's a very inferior quality. But if you go in a car which is designed to its precision, you will not feel the undulations as a passenger. You may go, the car is going through, but you don't go through. So sattva is a state where you remain equipoised and balanced and equanimous, irrespective of the fortunes of the company or the fluctuations what the market puts you through. You have a level-headed. Your mind is not agitated. Your intellect has clear thought processes so that you can process what's coming to you.
Okay.
So sattva is a state of balance. Now let me complete the picture, sir. Sattva is a state of mental equality, equanimity. Rajas is a state where you are affected by the success or failure.
Okay.
Tamas is where you are indifferent, unconcerned, not bothered what happens. So what is the often misconceived perception is many people think being balanced as indifferent. It is not. They are poles apart. When you are able to have a sense of composure and take the right course of action, irrespective of what is happening, that is a matured mental state where you have processed everything and you still remain, you are able to take the right decision. Okay. Where emotions doesn't affect you. So, even as an unwritten law, even in medicine, a surgeon would not operate on his own kith and kin as an unwritten law. He could be a very successful surgeon, but when it comes for him to operate his own kith and kin, he will not do it. He'll give it to somebody else. Why is it?
Because of maybe some emotions and attachments and things like that.
Because of the emotions. The emotions come and disturb that intellectual sanity.
Okay. Oh.
But he's very objective with somebody else there in the operation theater. But if it's his own wife or his own child there, he's not able to handle the objectivity. He loses objectivity. You're affected there. That's Rajas.
Oh.
To feel and be affected by it is Rajas. Not to feel is Tamas. To feel and remain unaffected by it is Sattva.
Oh.
And that is what the verse is talking at the highest level. One who is hit the self, he remains unequal to any extremity. He remains unaffected. And if a leader of an organization has this capacity, and if he can resonate that mental balance and making the right decisions, imagine what kind of a work culture, what attitude it develops. But if the leader himself gets affected, ruffled, then it has a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yep.
So this is what the difference between sattva and tamas. I hope you get the difference, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. But my question to you was, maybe I will leave this with you. Let me engage somebody else. Srinivas Garu, what is the opposite of self-sufficiency, sir? That was the question I went to Venkatramanji.
Yes. In a general term, self-sufficiency is something who fully equipped and in a totality. And maybe I can look other way around is shortfall.
Shortfall.
Self-sufficiency is the one against which we're talking of. Opposite word is that you have a shortfall, you have drawback, or you have something to be add on. Means there is a gap. You are not fully equipped to meet the requirements.
I know you're putting in your own way, but I'm just looking for that that word. You've actually said it in your own way. But if you can just hold on, sir. Let me. Setaramanji wants to comment here, please. Yes, sir.
The empty. I am opposite of self-sufficiency is emptiness.
Sir, opposite of fullness is emptiness, isn't it? I am full, paripurna within. Vis-a-vis, I can have everything, but yet I feel a void within. I have a beautiful family. I've got an established business. I've got a lovely home. I've got a good name in the society. Everything is in my way, but still I feel an emptiness within. I don't know. There's all the time wanting more, and I can get everything, but still I feel myself a void. That is the emptiness to the fullness. But we are talking of paripurna. That's paripurna. But we're talking of self-sufficiency.
Hollow.
Slightly different. Huh?
Hollow.
Still hollow again, still the same thing. Fair enough. Okay. Harishji, any idea?
It would be desiring or depending. Both are the same.
So opposite of self-sufficiency is your reliance or dependence on the external world. When I am self-sufficient, I don't need the external world or prop to keep me feel comfortable. But when I am not self-sufficient, I need something external to keep me going. Whether it be the love from the world, or it's the acceptance from the world, or it could be anything that comes from the world to keep me going. Let's say a little emotion from the world is taken away. Now we all are going through a phase where the world has lost its ability to interact. We all have lost that social aspect from your life. How has it affected you? Reddy Garu.
Yes, it affected a lot, Guruji, in terms of we are missing connectivity, the first and most. They're talking where everything is virtual. Definitely the virtual world is a virtual. So it doesn't bring you. So that's a missing point.
Yeah, certainly, if I were to conduct this class sitting with you all in a classroom, it's a totally different atmosphere.
Totally different.
Totally different. But yet, has that affected you in some way?
Of course, it's affected. In fact, the gap, we have been born and we have been living with this particular understanding of connecting the people, understanding. Now, when direct classes become online classes, like work from home is more or less like become a work for home. So you know what really going
no, you are wherever you're working, you're only working for home, no?
So you understand, you bring physically into the domain of workplace and make the people to work, interact with them, and understand their emotions, feelings, body language, which is really missing there.
Yes.
So still the people are gaining out of this exercise, but definitely at my personal understanding, still we are not the same what we used to be earlier.
See,
It's
so
the
what,
pandemic coming in the picture.
correct. No, what I agree entirely with you. It's obviously a different dynamic scenario. But however, is it not possible to mentally remain unaffected by it?
Absolutely possible.
Can we not emulate or admire the quality of being self-sufficient? Just because I can't travel, just because I can't socialize, just because I can't do things which I've done before, does life come to an end?
No, it goes on.
Cannot life go on?
It will
And
go on.
will it not tap, should I not tap a certain capacity in me to be able to adapt to changing situations and circumstances?
Perfectly.
The birds migrate thousands of miles just to adapt to changing situations. Elephants travel close to 150, 200 miles a day just to get water.
That's perfectly, Guruji. In fact, I went a year back to shoot birds migrating to a lake near Krishnapatnam in Andhra. He was mentioning those birds have come from Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah.
The birds have come from Ukraine, came for here, hatching and takes the birds, hatches and takes back there.
The little ones there.
Yes.
Comes back again.
Yeah.
It is amazing how the animal kingdom is able to adapt just to carry on. And little things that's come our way, we are not able to adapt.
Yeah.
And we find a reason to complain about it.
That's true.
But if you are able to adapt to what, not that you desire, I would desire to meet you all in person. I would desire to go out if possible, travel the world, see, experience, explore. So many things I would wish to do, but by not doing it does not make me any less. I'm happy with it. I'm happy without it. So the little joys that something could bring me, when that's taken away, I am not any less because I have tapped that reservoir of happiness which is within me. That comes through the likeness of the self. That's what he says. Once you have got to that, thereafter the little joys, the little adds and add-ons doesn't make you any, should not embellish your life, man. Realize that. You know, many a time we feel, you know, let's say you have had a specific portrait on the wall. And let's say that portrait needs a replacement or needs repair, and it's gone to the shop for repair. And that guy says, it's going to take a week or so because, you know, it's intricate work and I'll need some time. I said, okay, you know, you take your time, but I want to get back the way I want. For 1 week, there is no portrait on the wall where you have constantly been seeing a portrait. Whenever you see that patch of wall, what do you feel?
It's a void.
A void. Exactly, there is a void in your life. There's an emptiness created because of your dependency on it. Now, we are not talking of not to feel. You must be able to feel the absence. Second thing is you're not affected by the absence. One thing is to feel, it is yet another thing to be affected. We are only saying don't be affected by it. If you ask me personally, I'm not trying to impress you all, the pandemic has not affected me a wee bit. It has made no difference to my life. There's so many things I would have done, so many things I could have done, they have not happened. It doesn't make a difference. And I'm not trying to impress anyone here. I'm just trying to tell you how you will be able to, I could have achieved far more than what I have achieved now. So what? And that is not being complacent, Venkatramanji. That is not that you don't have the drive. You have to make do with what you have, make the most of situation. It's not that isn't it complaining, I wish I had that, only I get that, I'll be happy. What do you call that quality? Whenever you keep saying, I wish I get that, I'll be happy. Ushama, UK. What do you call that quality?
Avarice, Guruji,
Avarice?
or greediness? No, it's not greediness.
I wouldn't call it, it's too strong a word for that.
Okay.
But whenever I say, if I get that, I'll be happy. If
You're
only I could travel, I'll be happy.
You're not content, discontentment you have.
Not really. What is that quality? I'm still with the quality of self-sufficiency, please.
Okay.
Think in those lines, extended concept around that.
You're not totally happy with what you have, Guruji. You want something else.
Correct.
So you're discontent with what you have. You're not self-sufficient with what you have. You're not wholesome with what you have. You want something to fill that gap. You feel there is a gap and you want to fill it with something.
Indeed, you're very true, you're very right when you say, but what is that? What is that quality in other words? What is that? I'm just trying to get to it. A fundamental mistake we all make. A fundamental mistake.
Means you're not happy with what you have. You want to make yourself wholesome by having something which you don't have. Is it that?
It is. You're right. In fact, you're very true. Very right. You want to make it wholesome by something you do not have to avoid. But what I was actually getting at is, if you're constantly wanting to find happiness in something you do not have, you are only living in the unborn future. Yeah. You are not living in the present.
Correct.
A simple quality of trying to live in the present, accept gracefully, and live to the fullest, you will have no problem. If this is my scenario, if I have to work from home, let me make my home a temple of work, a temple of worship. Why should I want to make my office a temple? All the while when I was office was my workplace, I thought how nice if I had time to go and spend it more at home with family. Now you're spending all the time at home, you want to get away from family. You have a reason to complain. You're all the time living in the future. You're all the time grumbling and complaining. You're not gracefully, holistically, wholesomely accepting and making the most of it. To that extent, joy or sorrow doesn't affect you. You make the most of what is there. You are very productive because you're making the most of what is there, and you're at the same time you've conquered your mind. You're very peaceful and contented, rather than wishing and desiring and craving and wanting and bitterly complaining what life is putting you through. Man, that you have an opportunity to make it a heaven, but you choose it to make it a hell. That's your mindset. But so it is a beautiful quality that you should learn to adapt, learn to inculcate this quality of self-sufficiency. The capacity where you discount the world and you are self-reliant. Is like a bird which is perched on a branch. When the branch breaks, the bird has the wings of self-sufficiency. It will fly away. But you are holding on to the branch break, you will fall down. You don't have the wings of self-sufficiency. So the Shastras are trying to, this is another aspect of union with your own inner self. So it is an internalization, it's an inner transformation. Once you attain this is another quality that rubs on to you. Yes, Reddy Garu, something to clarify?
Yes, Guruji, as you rightly said, that is one side we have an initial hiccups with respect to the pandemic and work from home, but definitely we invented and reinvented quite a lot of unknown things, which some other way we have been in the impression that never it will happen. It is not possible, not practicable, but all have been proven wrong. because these situations are compelled to think alternatives. It definitely
You have
made
come
a
up,
huge difference.
isn't it? We have
Huge
come up with
difference, right?
many ways and means, isn't it?
Right. For example, Google says that their overall profitability has been improved. 1.8 billions they could able to save. Work from home concept 100% been implemented without impacting the turnovers. And it has been added a lot of value to the environment with respect to the travel. And the people saved a lot of time in travels. Of course, there could be we're talking about connectivity loss, some sort of a loss, but you can say the way the balance between loss and profit, there's a huge profits in the loss what we've gone through that. Specifically on a personal level, I could get connected to more to the nature. I started sparing about some amount of my time on bird watching.
I know, and I see that nature has come into the class also.
I could see the background of that.
Background, you have created a forest for yourself. Very selfish. You're not inviting us to your forest.
It's not a forest. It's just a house next to me. House there is a neem tree. So I started watching the birds and their movements, their life, their habits, and the discipline. I think there's a lot need to be learned from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a different life. So, thanks, Guruji.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In fact, I'll just mention this quote. I remember, I think Socrates said it. Socrates, or I don't know, Socrates. Ashama, I think you wanted to say something. I'll come to you. Socrates says this. I could be wrong quoting him, but either him or somebody else, he says, whenever I pass by a shop, I wonder at the number of things I can do without. Whenever I pass by a shop, I wonder at the number of things I can do without. My life can go on without it. I'm happy without it. I can still be happy without it. That's what Srinivaji said. You can still be happy without it. It's just that you have made yourself a slave to everything out there and you feel you need it, you're dependent on it. But if you realize that capacity, you are happy without it, you are happy with it. The question is whether you are happy, independent without it. That's a test you got to put yourself. Okay. I know we have overshot, but Ashama, you want to say something quickly, please, ma?
No, Pranam Guruji.
Yes,
I just, one Urdu couplet has come to my mind when you were talking about state of perfection. It says, "Khud ko kar buland itna," make yourself so perfect कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. God should ask you, tell me what should I write in your destiny. Bring yourself to such perfection.
Can you say it once again, please?
खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है.
क्या बोले आपने? Very nice. Wow. Very nice, very nice. So it's a philosophy is so beautifully captured. Who said that, ma?
I think it was Iqbal, but I'm not sure. Poet Iqbal, but I'm not sure. Now, this is something in our childhood our father used to quote, and that's how it remained in my mind.
So blessed, so blessed. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, Sudhakar garu.
First of all, a question comes to my mind. How should we evaluate that we are self-sufficient? Unless an external force, just like this pandemic, comes and teaches us a lesson. Basically, we are not aware of our self-sufficiency unless some external force comes and teaches us. And it has got its own impact, then only we realize that we are self-sufficient. We should not be.
This is too late. If you wait for situations and circumstances to come and test you, then you would know, but then you're not equipped to handle that situation. Like many people have not mentally been able to handle this challenge because they have not built themselves internally. But if you want to know your level of self-sufficiency, let's say, are you dependent on being chauffeur driven, or am I happy to take a public transport, walk for next 5 minutes to the bus station, wait for 20 minutes for the bus to come, get myself pushed and squashed in the bus, and then walk again next 10 minutes to my workplace? And if I have the same mental composure, it doesn't matter whether if I have to take a public transport or be chauffeur driven, I'm fine with it. Doesn't matter if I have to sit in economy class or if I have to sit in the first class. I remember of a episode of, I think, who is that not Wipro, who is this? One of the IT giants, Murthy, Narayan Murthy. Apparently he was traveling a long distance flight, and a young gentleman who sat a seat away from him, he sort of saw him, noticed him, but then very soon thereafter got in conversation with him. And he describes him that he was a man who was just wearing an ordinary overcoat and just so humble and very unassuming. And this man had a flashy, what is this, a three-piece suit and whatnot. And then after the conversation with him, he very soon realized that it was Narayana Murthy. And he writes of his experience, what he learned in that long journey, that flight. He happened to sit next to him, and he was traveling in economy class, somewhere from US to India. Here is a man who could travel in a private jet, and yet he's so happy taking an economy class. No unassumingness. There's no air of ego and arrogance. So what I'm trying to say is, put yourself through the quality known as tapas. Do some tapas, sir. That's how you know what is your level of self-sufficiency. Tapas is to withdraw yourself from activities where you are actually conserving your energy. Tapas has two ingredients. I'll perhaps remind me to be expanded that next week when I come back. Tapas has two ingredients. One is when you withdraw from activity, you're conserving your energy. Then you can redirect it something higher. Let's say a simple thing like you don't get your morning coffee. The newspaper doesn't arrive. Or electricity is not there. You're not able to watch your television program. Internet is not there. You can't watch your Facebook. You can't watch movies. Simple things like this where it gets affected. How does it affect you? Now you can choose to say, I will not read newspaper today. I will not have this today. I will not have that today, and see how does your mind behave. So tapas is consciously withdrawing yourself from activities and just see how does your mind behave, and be true to yourself when you're assessing yourself. Harish, it was raining today, so you couldn't go for cycling. Are you bitterly cursing nature, or you're saying, oh, what a beautiful... In fact, Rajima, when she messaged me this morning, 6 o'clock, she put a emoji and say, Guruji, it is raining, cycling gone for a 6 something, she said. My reply to her was, lovely rain, beautiful rain. I said. Not that she's complaining, but she's saying, I can't go cycling because it's raining. Does it put me off balance? Can I see the other side of it and say, never mind, so what? So put yourself through tapas. Tapas gives you a way to check your actual level of self-sufficiency or dependency. All right, we have actually way overshot. Forgive you all. Please seek your forgiveness rather. So we will come back to this concept if required, and I'll mention one or two more on this verse, and we'll continue next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.